Hello Internet, and welcome to my review of Angels of Death, episode 13. We are back from our week off, now into the fall season, and I think these episodes are like coming up online in Japan. I don't quite get the whole thing, but you know what, here we are. When we last left off, Ray and Zack had made it to the final basement, where they encountered Danny, who locked himself in a room with Rachel to watch Zack go about the floor after Danny told Zack that he could only come back into the room after he had learned the truth about Rachel. And so Zack went through a bunch of, traps set by the house to kill him. And then he found the TV that started to tell him the truth about the gardeners. And he seemed to learn something super dramatic. Which is actually the cold open of this episode, is him, the same thing that last week, or 2 weeks ago, left off on. My biggest complaint is that we don't really, so I'll get into this more when I start to discuss the episode proper, but the thing is, we don't see, we see that reaction, like, oh my god, and then it feels like we cut back to learn what made Zack reach that point, but he never reaches that point again. Which is really weird. He's not really shocked by it, which I do like, and I'll get into later. But before we begin the episode proper, I'd like to remind everyone, if you've not seen my channel update from yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, I have extended the fall anime straw poll until the 15th, so you can actually see some fall shows before you vote for your fall shows. So yeah, have fun with that. Links in the description, you know the drill by now. So anyway, on to Rachel's flashback. It's kind of a frame story within a frame. It's like a flashback within a flashback, because our first flashback is of Danny interviewing Rachel. And the first thing we learn is that Danny's eyes don't just do that. They don't just do the double pupil thing. He has a fake eye. Which is nice to get confirmed that he's not just some weird lizard person. I still think he's a lizard person. His mouth is too lizardy to not be a lizard person. But his eyes aren't biologically contributing to that. But as Ray is being interviewed by Danny, she gets into her actual backstory. And the first thing we find out is that Ray's dad was super abusive. We see him, he smacks her mother around. By the end of the episode, he's stabbed her in the heart with a broken beer bottle. It's dark, but in a way, Angels of Death has always been dark, but it's normally this fun kind of dark. And we get into more of the fun kind of dark near the end of the backstory, I'll get into later. But it's a little oppressive how, to the audience, how dark Ray's backstory is. How abusive her dad is. And we also find out that her mother is also abusive, though in this case it feels more like Todoroki's mom in MHA. How her abuse is kind of a result of the husband's abuse, which is not okay whatsoever. It's actually one of my big problems with MHA. How much Todoroki's mom gets, the fact that she poured boiling water on her son gets brushed aside and kind of blamed on Endeavor, where it's a whole thing. I'll maybe talk about in some other video. But yeah, she's still an Rachel's mom is still an abusive ass. And so after we're kind of introduced to her parents, we cut back to the interview room, and we see there's this interesting use of lighting where everything is lit up like it's a sterile police interview room, except more of a medical interview room, I guess, except Rachel, who is several shades lower than the room would normally allow. So, and later on, when Danny starts talking about his mother's suicide, I think it is, we see Danny joins that same light as the room around them is still brightly lit. I'm not entirely sure what that says, if anything, or if it's just a weird thing the animators did. I don't know. I don't quite get it, but it's interesting use of lighting. Then we cut back to the actual story, or the flashback, the less actual story, the flashback within the flashback of Rachel's mom, or Rachel's parents. And we see she had brought this puppy home that she had killed and stitched back together, because Rachel, as you've seen in the past, is really big on stitching dead things. And so she walks in on her father killing her mother with a beer bottle, like I mentioned earlier, and then the father chases her around the house until he corners her in her room, and she pulls out her mother's gun and shoots him dead. So first of all, we find out that Rachel did not kill both her parents, as we kind of assumed. She had only killed her father. But I don't quite get how she, like, did she steal her mom's gun in preparation for something like this possibly happening? Did she steal it because she's a macabre child and just likes murder weapons? I don't know. I don't quite get all of it. But she had her mom's gun lying around and kills her dad. Then stitches her parents back together and has this, like, a week before the cops come, of this, like, macabrely sweet family life with her parents, which is, honestly, it's the best part of the episode. It's the one thing that really feels like it's in Angels of Death's tone. You know, this kind of, you know, it's super creepy if you stop and think about it for a second, but, like, almost it feels nice, which is kind of a way to put Zack and Rachel's relationship in so many words. You know, it feels nice, and then you're like, wait a sec, he's trying to kill her, and she's trying to be killed. But, you know, it works. It works in a way that a lot of the rest of the episode kind of doesn't. But that's really the end of the flashback. Besides that little bit I mentioned of Danny being in the same kind of light as she is. And so we get back to the present. The first thing we find out is that, and my personal favorite part, is that the shock from last week was just like a fake out, and Zack doesn't really care so much. Like, I was really worried they were gonna, like, make it, you know, Zack is so shocked by Rachel killing one person that he hates her now, despite the fact that Zack has killed who knows how many people in his life. And so I'm glad that's not where they're going. Like, that would just have been a really bad way to play it. I'm still not entirely sold on how they actually end up playing it through the rest of the episode, but I'm more lenient now they're not going for that. Though I am still a little shocked that, like, that's, like, she killed one person and stitched two dead people back together, and that's, like, this is Angel of Death. Everyone kills people in this show. No one doesn't not kill people, okay? I don't know, I used several negatives there, I got lost a little bit. But, like, her backstory is just so, I don't want to call murder tame, but, like, for Angels of Death, a single murder is pretty fucking tame. Which then leads to, but anyway, so Zack barges into the room, you know, confronts Danny and, Rachel, and he asks Rachel a seemingly completely random and yet accurate question of, do you kill everyone who reaches this floor? Which there really shouldn't, I don't know what happened to make him think that is the problem with a lot of the back half of this episode. Is the big problem with the back half of this episode is we don't know. So Rachel was a certain way for the first 12 episodes. And now she's very different. You know, she's just, the Rachel of the previous 11, you know, Rachel in the last arc risked her life to save Zack. And now all of a sudden she's killing him. And we don't know why. You know, maybe if she was scared that Zack would reject her after learning her past, maybe. But he doesn't reject her. You know, he does not say, oh, you're a monster for doing all that. He just doesn't care. So I don't quite get why that's happening. I'm hoping the last 3 episodes will have, you know, some flashback to what was going on with her and Danny while Zack was learning her backstory. Just because I feel like that would just make the show make sense, I think. But yeah, among other things, we find out that getting shocked to normal death by a bathtub will not kill Zack because he's Zack. And then at the end, so the rest of the episode is pretty much like Zack chasing Rachel around the house until he finally corners Rachel, but then Danny shows up right behind him and is like right about has the gun to his face or something, or back of the head, I think. And then Rachel pulls out her gun and shoots. We don't see who she shoots at. The show seems like it wants to think she shoots at Zack, but my money's on the next episode revealing she actually shot Danny right behind Zack. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Just because Rachel's actions seem so counter to what she's been doing the whole show. And so I hope I've enjoyed the show enough to this point that I hope that it will make things make sense after this episode. But if it continues like it is, we're not looking to a great ending, I don't think. But yeah, I hope eventually Rachel's actions make more sense. Maybe it makes more sense in the game. Maybe game players can tell me that it will make more sense as I watch the show. Who knows? I hope it gets better. This episode was not the best. It had a lot of problems. But you know, it was still a mostly decent half hour. I don't know. Rachel's backstory was just really tame in a way that the show is building up for it to be much more dramatic. And I don't know why she's trying to kill Zack now. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed the episode more than I did, and the video. If you did, feel free to drop me a like, or subscribe, or fill out that straw poll in the description down below, or do whatever the fuck you want. I am the boss of you, and as always, people, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you in the future. Bye!